Today we are going to discuss the studio era in Indian cinema. We are basically concerned with a period that is between 1930s to 1950s when the major studios came up, and with the advent of the studios in Indian cinema, what are the changes that took place in India. So basically would focus on the technological aspect of the studio era in cinema, Indian cinema, how that led to some changes in the film technology in the overall scenario. Secondarily, we would focus on the other major important aspects of the studio era, how the transformation took place because of the major studios, and then very briefly describe some of the major studios, the big major studios, Prabhat New Theatres and Bombay Talkies, and finally how the studio era came to an end by 1950. So that is our basic discussion in today's class. So before we start describing or discussing the studio era in Indian cinema, we need to remember, or we should keep in mind, that when we are studying any particular historical period or trying to give an historical overview of a particular period with respect to a cultural text or medium or any formation of art, so there should be, we should keep in mind that we should do it with a kind of non-teleological aspect. That is, the event that takes place was not in that case in kind of inevitable event that was bound to take place after that event, but some event takes place and the events and the cultural text transform that changing logic. And also the other feature or other technique that we should keep in mind when we are discussing any particular uh, historical period or a particular text or cultural event, that how we are saying this particular period is unique in itself, or how is it different from some other period of other cultural text. Suppose, like, if we discuss the studio era in Indian cinema, then the first question that comes up to our minds, how is it different from the earlier period or the early silent cinema of Indian cinema, or suppose how it's different from the period of post independence Indian cinema. So there we should keep in mind that whenever we are discussing any particular cultural text of any particular period, or we are saying this is a particular era, particular phase, we should we are actually, what we are doing, we're focusing more on the dominant features of that particular period. So there can be some features which are present in the pre studio era, post studio era and studio era as well, but we are not focusing on the uniqueness always of the particular period. What we're doing is basically what are the dominant pattern or what are the dominant features of that particular period or era. Like in studio era, there will be some features, there will be some change in aesthetics, some change in technology that will be unique to its period, that was not present in the early silent period of Indian cinema. But along with them, there will be also some other pattern, some other stylization, some other formation that we can trace back in some other periods of Indian cinema as well. But in studio era, they got a new kind of realignment or a kind of arrangement or a kind of organized practice. So basically, when in 1930s the major studios came up in India, and they almost swallowed up actually the small production units or the small production houses in India, a serious change that takes place in terms of the film economy, like the pattern of the film production, film distribution, film exhibition, and also a rise of expert technicians like who were skilled in their individual field. Like before the emergence of studio era, when the early silent period cinema we are habituated with, there was no such job responsibility, division of job responsibility in cinema field, in the field of cinema. But with studio era, we see this rise of the division of job responsibility, and that is again something not new to Indian cinema, or unique to Indian cinema, that happened in Hollywood or the film practice of USA as well. In USA, as we know, also between the two Second World War, the studio economy or the studio era emerged with the big five and the little three, like the MGM, RKO, and Universal, all the studios, the giving shape or pioneering a kind of classical standardized narrative. So in India is with also with no exception that in the similar period the studios emerged, and the major technological change or the major change that overlap with the studio formation or the formation of the studio area in Indian cinema was the emergence of sound or the talkie. With the advent of sound, several other changes or transformation also took place. Like suppose the issue of language that came up majorly. Like what would be the standard Indian language for Indian cinema? Because until the till the silent or mostly in the silent period of Indian cinema, because language was not a major issue. Like it's mostly the narrative action and the images that was the important issue for the filmmakers or the film producers. But with the advent of sound and with the introduction of dialogue delivery in the film sequences, so what would be the standard Indian language that become a pressing issue in all these major studios like Pravat New Theatre, Bombay Talkies. And we have to also remember that by 1930s or this particular period in early 1930s, 1940s, Hindi was not established as the national language of India. So there was this trial and error method. So what should be the Indian language they should use, whether it should be Marathi, Bengali, Hindi, Tamil, Telugu, or etc., or some other languages. And many of these independent or major studios, they had this nationalist aspiration, so they also tried to make some nationalist cinema for a national audience base. Like New Theatre tried to make and actually New Theatre made or produced a series of bilingual films, so with the Pravat or Bombay Talkies, so the same films was like made in Bengali and Hindi or some other different Indian languages. So the question of nationalism or the question of nation and region, that also become an important or pressing issue for the Indian cinema. And also with the advent of sound, we have to remember that the major change that took place in the film editing, like there was a movement from the icon to the more to the action, from the action to more to the dialogue delivery, or there is an important thing that before it was the action cut, like when the action is taking place on screen and the action is finished and we have a cut, and in the next scene we have a new action that would take place. But with the advent of sound in the film editing or scenario in Indian cinema, the dialogue cut become the more dominant form of film editing. Like when one or two characters or three or four more characters, they are encountering, they are interacting with each other, so dialogue cut become almost a norm in the Indian cinema. And also with the advent of sound, we have to remember also the emergence of the background score or the playback singing. Like Bhagya Chakra, the first film which used the playback singing as its important film aesthetic. So that is also something that going to be the pioneering film aesthetics or the pattern of Indian cinema. So these are the things, these are the issues, these are the concerns or aspiration or anxiety that transform the film industry in a great way. And that also was reflected in terms of the film acting, because till the silent era it was okay to hire a particular actor or actress who is good with the acting skill or the body language and everything. But after the sound, emergence of sound, also his articulation, his dialogue delivery capacity and everything became equally important. And the film journals or the film magazines of this particular period, if one follows or follow the film journals of this particular period, they follow this aspiration, this anxiety, this concern of the newly changed medium. Like suppose if I am quoting from a 1931 Puja issue of Filmland, when Niranjan Pal wrote that with talkie's advent, old values went by the board and new values which would have regarded as deficits in the old days took their pride. Principles which had been looked upon as almost sacred were scrapped without compunction. Even action on which and on which alone the silent pictures were built was no longer a first essential. In place of action, human psychology and characterizations have become very important factors in the progressive development of successful talkies. So human psychology, what Niranjan Pal actually tried to mean, the human psychology, what is not that much important in the silent period of Indian cinema, that takes a major role in with the advent of sound and basically with this studio made film production. So these are the new changes that is giving shape to this new medium called cinema, and also its novelty, the novelty of the medium, that also became something important to focus on. So along with the new acting style, new editing technique, new cinematography, new film logistics, film aesthetics as per se, there are this other concern over the national region, what would be the aspiration, what would be not, and also the question of realism or melodrama also came up. Like what should be the ideal nature of Indian realism, and whether the Western realistic mode or the realism that we used to see in the Western cinema or in Hollywood would be fit for the Indian cinema or for the Indian audience. We should need a new mode of realism, we should need a new mode of drama, tension, melodrama, and all that also becomes something important to focus on. Like in Western technique, if I just give an example or if I try to compare between the period of cinema in both these countries, like in Western countries and in India, the self-reflexivity was not that much important in the narrative cinema or in the standards narrative cinema in the West, except the modernist technique like some Soviet montage or some other European modernist technique. In narrative cinema or in standardized classical narrative cinema, it was mostly about the seamless narrative technique. But in Indian cinema, we find this exception, the self-reflexivity also becomes something important, and that especially with the films of new theaters where the stylization were important part of their film production needs or the new features of the studio era that were like working to give shape this new medium called cinema. So novelty was also important, and also the influences, like on the one hand the Western narrative model, the Hollywood, the realism, the seamless editing pattern and cinematography was important, but along with that our own indigenous Indian medium like theater, like Parsi theater, or in case of new theater that would be the Bengali literature, or in case of Prabhat that would be the Sangeet Natak, a particular theatric genre of Marathi theater tradition, that also contributed to this medium of cinema. So it's a kind of heterogeneity of those diverse forms. Like on the one hand, cinema was influenced, cinema was formed or taking its shape from following the logistics of the Western filmmaking technique. On the other hand, the indigenous Indian tradition of theater, drama, and painting, they also trying to give a shape to this new filmic medium. Bombay Talkies was established in 1934 by Himanshu Rai and Devika Rani and have become major studio, one of the three major studios of Indian cinema, because Bombay Talkies not only produced some of the pioneering films, some of the relevant films, but also it served as a kind of training ground for many future stars of Indian cinema. Like as we all familiar with the actors or stars like Ashok Kumar or Raj Kapoor, they started their career with Bombay Talkies. Raj Kapoor started his career as a clap boy. Ashok Kumar started as a laboratory assistant, and some of the important filmmakers of this period and also the later period, they started also their acting career with Bombay Talkies. So Bombay Talkies was founded by Himanshu Rai and Devika Rani in 1934. Himanshu Rai, just to go to their brief biographical sketch, Himanshu Rai went to Germany and then London, and he was trained as a filmmaker abroad. And when he was planning to make his first feature film Light of Asia, he hired Devika Rani as an art director of his film, and together they formed this studio. This established this studio called Bombay Talkies, and in the initial years, they're one of the mansion of a businessman they use as their office. So Bombay Talkies cinema became famous for the stylization, for some particular kind of genre division, dialogue delivery, its stardom, and the overall style. But along with that, Bombay Talkies cinema was also criticized for not commenting on the social political situation of India, or not making quote unquote the socially aware film like the other studios like Filmistan or Prabhat were engaged with. So Bombay Talkies, you have to remember, if we just go over the names, like some of the important names like Jawani Ka Hawa, Janam Bhumi, Jiban Naiya, Mamta, Mia Bibi, Izzat, Jivan Prabhat, Nirmala, Achyut Kanya, Kismet, some of the major hits of the Bombay Talkies. And Achyut Kanya became really a major hit. It actually focused on a love story between a Brahmin boy and also untouchable girl, and Devika Rani and Ashok Kumar played the lead in this cinema. But again, this film was criticized by the critic that though it tried to portray the untouchability or issues like social discrimination, but finally what it ended up a kind of escapist love story and not focusing enough of the present socio-political situation of Indian cinema. But Bombay Talkies also became important for the kind of corporate house film production that it started, one of the pioneering studio of that time. And author like Lolit Joshi wrote that perhaps Bombay Talkies was India's first film company that was established modern corporate business. So that idea was very important for Bombay Talkies. And the famous Urdu writer Sadat Hasan Manto, he also wrote that Himanshu Rai was an extremely hardworking filmmaker. He laid down the foundation of the Bombay Talkies in such a manner that it would appear as an ideal production houses. So that is in brief the pioneering attempt of Bombay Talking, or some of the points that is important for the overall historical narrative of Indian cinema. Prabhat, one of the other major important studios of the Indian cinema, that was established by Damle, Fatehlal and Shantaram and some other technicians, actually by 5 technicians who had very little money to establish a studio, but with their zeal and willpower they finally established the studio, and it became one of the most important studio of Indian cinema. So Prabhat was established by 1932, and contrary to the Bombay talkies, which the specialization went with the stardom, the light-hearted comedy, romantic tale, Prabhat from the starting days focused more on the social issues or the socially relevant film or the social awareness the film projected on screen. So V. Shantaram, one of the important directors of the Indian cinema, who also later made films after he left Prabhat and he established Rajkamal Studio. So Damle, Fatehlal and Shantaram, all of them three, made films like Admi, Sejari, Kunku, Duniya Na Mane, and many of these films actually focused on the issues of social discrimination, the caste privilege in Indian society, the oppression of women, the issues like child marriage or the necessity of the widow remarriage. Many of the films actually focused on that. Most important film that we remember with the Prabhat's pioneering attempt in the Sant Tukaram. Sant Tukaram was a film made by Damle and Fatehlal, and Vishnupat Pagnis did the lead role in this film, actually centered around a Bhakti saint of this period. But what the film did with this idea of the saint film, it gave a new stylization or new aesthetics to this particular genre. इंद्रियासकड़ा भावतो निराला निराला. And also Prabhat was important because Prabhat's film is important to focus on, because on the one hand the studio productions was influenced by the European modernist technique of cinema, especially the German expressionist style of film cinematography and film editing, but on the other hand the indigenous Marathi tradition or the Sangeet Natak also played an important role. So Prabhat focused on this heterogeneity of the both Western influence and also the influence of the indigenous art form. भावतो निराला निराला भावतो निराला. New theatres that was established by B.N. Sarkar in 1931. So what New Theatre did in the landscape of Bengali culture and also the Indian cinema, it focused certain kind of narrative which was mostly adaptation of the Bengal literature, and it gave birth through a specific kind of film styles or film template that was not important only for the time period they are making the film, but also in the future decades. When we are going to discuss the pioneering attempt of the new theatres in the Bengali cinema or in the national cinema, the one thing that is important to remember, that new theatre also, with new theatres, the also initiated the presence of the Bhadralok culture in Bengali cinema. That also became the template for Bengali cinema in the coming years like 1950s and 1960s and other decades. So, discussing the contribution of new theatres in the Indian cinema, Kalidas Nag wrote that new theatres invested a fortune not in rewarding or capitalizing on artists, but in building up new traditions for the techniques of artist acting, direction, photography, sound, recording, etc. It is because of this that this pioneer Bengal studio has become a veritable institution and a promoter of talents that have largely influenced the whole course of Indian films. Bombay and Madras studios may have advanced further in some respects, but in Bengal, studio experts did the pioneering job on the technical side. So mostly the new theatre studio was modeled on the Hollywood studio system, like production distribution arm and on the shooting floor and the hire technicians and all. But the indigenous, like the Prabha, the indigenous influences of the Bengali cultural tradition was also equally important for the new theatre films. New theatre made some remarkable films like Chandidash, Devdash, and then Jibon Moron, President, Bhagyo Chakra, and some other. And Devdash became the important film for new theatres and the importance of new theatres in the Indian cinema and the reputation it earned with this particular film. So the film stylistically brought new standards and brought it to a cinema a new lyrical intensity that was until then unknown to film audience. In new theatre production, this Bengali cultural rhetoric or the values of the Bengali culture or Bengali literature that become something important. And serious names like Kazi Nazrul Islam, Shailaja Ranjan, Premankur Atorthi, even Rabindranath Tagore was in some part had association with this particular studio in Bengal. So it earned a kind, not only a kind of successful, it earned its respect or reputation not only as a kind of successful film production unit but also a kind of cultural institution. That is something new or something unique to new theatres that was not so much evident in other studio productions of Indian cinema at that particular period. So new theatre presented a kind of cultural emblem, a kind of template of Bengali cinema. And again, what we have to remember, a presence of particular class that is so important in the behind the popularity or the success stories of new theatres. So all these major studios like Bombay Talkies, Prabhat, and New Theatre obviously reached a new milestone in the Indian cinema and which would become important thing for the following decades. Studio era also came to an end by 1950s, and the reasons are multiple, like its emergence. Like its emergence was like caused by a multiple reason, socio-political, technological. Similarly, when the studio era came to an end, there are multiple reasons that were working behind this. The first thing that happened with 1950s, there is a new production economy or the new aesthetics that came up, and a rise of the new independent directors that also changed the Indian cinema scenario to a great extent. So instead of the major big production houses, it is the small production houses, independent production or the floating producer to be called, they become the important major player in Indian cinema. And also the Indian cinema focused 2 or 3 major themes that was not so much important in the studio era film technique or film aesthetics. Like in the post independence era, the Indian cinema on the one hand focused on the Nehruvian dream, the aspiration of the Nehruvian India, and filmmakers like Mehboob Khan and Raj Kapoor, they focused on this aspiration quite literally in their cinema. And on the one hand, we have examples from Bimal Roy and some other filmmakers who tried to project a dark reality of the post-independence Indian cinema. So the unemployment and the poverty and the projecting the theme that ye azadi jhuta hai or the false independence. So this became the major trope or the major thematics of the post-independence Indian cinema, and the studio production or the studio film aesthetics or the studio film technology couldn't quite cope up with this new situation, with this new demand, with this new economy, with this new film aesthetics and all. And there are also several other factors like the shortage of raw stock that become an important issue, and that also brings the studio era to a particular demise of this particular phase. So with this, we come to an end in today's our discussion of Indian studio era in Indian cinema.
धरती कहे पुकार के बीज बिछा ले प्यार के मौसम बीता जाए